We filed a brief with the Supreme Court. It's called an amicus curiae brief, a friend of the court brief. We filed it with our partners in these efforts, oftentimes the Allied Educational Foundation. It's about a topic that probably hasn't gotten a lot of news, but it's important. And it's the ability of the census to ask questions of individuals as we face the new, as we come up on the new census in 2020, whether or not they are citizens of the United States. Now, supposedly this is a new question. Well, it's really not a new question because there are, the census is more than just the big census that you think about every 10 years. There's always surveys conducted by the Census Bureau and surveys which include questions like that. But they wanted to make this a general question, I believe, for the full census in 2020, and the left went ballistic. The left went ballistic. And I believe they went ballistic is because they don't want you, the American voter or citizen, to know how many foreign nationals are here in the United States. Because I'm sure it's a number that's uncomfortable to many Americans. It's a massive population of foreign nationals here in the United States, both aliens lawfully present and aliens unlawfully present. So the left is desperate and they hate the idea of the American people knowing more about the number of foreign nationals here in the United States. And what had happened is the census is run, I believe, by the Commerce Department. So the left came in and sued the Commerce Department, found an anti-Trump judge who had a trial. I mean, frankly, that they were having a trial as to whether they were going to have the census question. The mere fact that the trial was going to take place was an indication of how the judge was going to rule. So the judge, of course, ruled that the cabinet official appointed by President Trump and confirmed by the U.S. Senate, wasn't able to make the decision to include the census question. And now, in order to get the census question part of the 2020 census, we have to move quickly. It's already, I couldn't believe it, it's 2019. I'm still thinking it's 2018, so it's next year. They've got to move quickly. So the Trump administration appealed it to the Supreme Court, and so the Supreme Court is considering this issue, and Judicial Watch filed an amicus brief, as I said, with our friends at the Allied Educational Foundation. And the point we make in the amicus brief is that the census question would help Judicial Watch and the federal government in their efforts to make sure the voting rolls and voting laws are operating well. Now, essentially, we want to include the citizenship question, or think it's appropriate to include the citizenship question, because it would make sure that only eligible citizens are on the rolls. And as we say in the brief, adding a citizenship question to the decennial census, decennial means every 10 years, would generate a massive amount of new data concerning the numbers of citizens and non-citizens in U.S. states and counties. To quibble about potential limitations on in the data that would be collected is to miss the point. It cannot be the case that we are somehow better off with less information. The mountain of new data generated by the decennial census question will assist private litigants in the Department of Justice in their efforts to enforce the National Voter Registration Act, which is the law requiring states take reasonable steps to clean up the rolls that we've sued under. And indeed, this data will overcome limitations identified by a federal court concerning the current data on citizenship. So essentially, the current data on citizenship is extrapolated based on questions to a limited group of individuals. It's pretty good data, but it is far from perfect. And the way to make the data better is to ask more people the question of whether they're citizens or not. What's the harm in asking the question? Well, as I told you what the harm is, the left is afraid their open borders agenda will be undermined by a negative reaction to the potential numbers of citizens that confirmed here in the United States, both legal and otherwise. It's tens of millions of individuals. And this is a segue to the other issue of voter fraud, when you've got all these individuals here in the United States who are not eligible to vote, it makes it incumbent upon the states and the federal bureaucracies and law enforcement to make sure they're not on the rolls and to make sure they're not voting.